Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our virtual Lunch and Learn event today. My name is Steve Cannon. I'm your VP of Member Development at the Greater Gainesville Chamber. And before we introduce our speaker today, I would first like to thank our sponsor for the 2020 Lunch and Learn series, that being Carr, Riggs & Ingram. Joining us today from Carr, Riggs & Ingram is one of the firm's partners, Frank Mason. Good morning, Frank. How you doing?
Glad to be here, and I'm glad everybody could join us today. I'm very excited about this presentation I was sharing with Steve earlier this week. The topic looks certainly on point for the world in which we are living today. So CRI is a large regional firm. We operate out of 10 states, and we have about 55 offices, about 2,000 professionals. And our current topic, as is most everybody in this presentation today, is, how are we working in this COVID environment? And if your business is feeling challenged because of the constraints placed upon your businesses from the COVID experience, please feel free to reach out to us. We have teams that have been specially trained for the various types of COVID services that anyone might need, whether it be on a personal level or a business level. Check us out, cricpa.com. We're very happy to be involved with the Chamber and happy to be a part of today's presentation.
Thank you again, Frank, for being here today. The speaker today is a certified instructor for Dale Carnegie Training. He specializes in leadership, communications, and human resources. And he also owns his own motivational and consulting firm. Along with his past speaking engagements at Chamber Lunch and Learns and our annual conference, Bob has also spoken at multiple leadership programs throughout Georgia and Florida, including clients like the University of North Florida, the Department of Transportation here in Florida, as well as the Department of Environmental Protection. Please help us today in welcoming our guest speaker, Mr. Bob Ganzak. Bob?
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that. And we'll kick right into our program today. I love working with the city of Gainesville, the people in the Alachua County area, and all over the great state of Florida. So I'm really happy to be here today. So today, we're going to move the room. What are some of the things that are going on in our world as being in this virtual world, and how can we be better in shifting back and forth from the virtual world to the in-person world, back and forth on a constant basis? I was interviewed for a blog that an old friend of mine in the radio business was writing, and it was on communication. And he asked me the question, after we went through the formalities, he asked me that question, Bob, does it bother you that there are some individuals out there that think that they can do what you're doing better than you can? And my answer to that was very quickly, no, it doesn't bother me, because any of us can communicate in either one of these virtual worlds if we can through our fears and understand the best proper way to do it. You see, I don't do this to show people what I do for a living. I do it in order to help other individuals do things that they never dreamt they could. And in our business world, we understand that people support a world they help create. So it's very important for you as a leader, as a communicator, as a team member, that you help your team have the most incredible experience they can in each and every one of your meetings, be it virtual or in person, because it's that energy that brings people to want to do the things that you need them to do, the community needs them to do, and the company needs them to do. That's what we're going to tackle today. We're going to learn some tips for becoming more proactive in the new reality of online communication. Yes, it's a new reality. We all have to get used to it. And then we're going to have some proven best practices for increasing your presence to keep meeting participants engaged. There is nothing worse than a boring meeting, or one of those meetings that you know what's going to happen and it happens every time the same way. And then 3, how to design and adapt the content to maximize participation, retention, and impact for your team. So let's kick into this and make these things happen. So to become more proactive in this new reality of our communication, and we're all working in this different environment where maybe part of our week is in a online virtual world, and part of it might be in a person-to-person communication. I know that at the University of Florida, some of the departments that I work with, they were going back to work this week, 2 days a week. Does that mean everybody is back to work at the same time, or are some meeting in the virtual world, some in the in-person world? That is one of the challenges. Atticus is going to put up a poll for you to take part in. And what I would like to see you do is rate yourself on your strength with online communication. How comfortable are you in that online communication? 1 being not at all, and 5 being excellent. I'm really strong in that online communication. See what type of response we get.
Bob, are you seeing those results?
I'm not seeing the results right now. You can
I'll
share
give it a
that
few
with
more
me,
seconds.
Atticus. Do you see what the results are?
Yeah, I'll show them right now.
So pretty much we sit in that mediocre in the middle. Not excellent. We've got more people in the pretty good. I like that. So in the second part of this poll, let's contrast that to rating yourself on your strength in person, face-to-face communication, in a meeting or standing up. Again, 1 through 5.
Just waiting on a few more votes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll end it there.
We do see that we tend to be more comfortable in person than the virtual world. Much more comfortable. Amazingly more comfortable in that virtual world. And it's kind of ironic, because in our Dale Carnegie world, what we talk about is that there are some situations where the fear of standing in front of a group is just incredible, that we can't get up and do that. Yet what we see in some of the virtual world, that virtual world does take us on another step beyond that fear of being in person in front of a group. Now, there are some challenges, and I've put together some of the list of the biggest challenges that we see. And these are some of the online challenges that struggle with. We're not sure who's online. As I sit here, I can't see anybody. I can't see anybody else. I see a logo of the Greater Gainesville Chamber up in the right-hand corner. And other than that, I see my computer screen, which is the PowerPoint. We're not sure if anyone is online. Sometimes you're talking in a meeting and you don't know if your people have checked out, if they have shut their camera off and gone out of the room. You really don't know that. As we started this meeting, one of the challenges was, can you hear me? Can you hear me? That was a question that was asked right away. Another challenge is, I can't see the people I'm talking to. Are they understanding what I'm saying? Am I talking too much? Yes, I am. Are the people listening, or are they searching the internet? You can hide behind that camera if you're in this world. These are just some of the challenges that you could probably add 10 or 15 things to this list yourself. Yet when we narrow that down, we come down to 2 basic challenges. One is the unseen, that fear of an audience that you do not see in person. And the other is the unknown, that fear of technology. We are so afraid of these machines. As I sit here, Atticus and I met yesterday, had a couple of meetings about how we were going to go through this process. And when you go back to our Dale Carnegie stress principles, what is the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is the screen shuts down and we lose the meeting. We can start it again. We could do it over again. So some of these things are extremely important for us to understand that there are fears and all of us are feeling those same fears. There are ways around it. By increasing your presence, you can keep your participants engaged. Doesn't matter if you're in a office boardroom or if you're virtually online. If you have half of your team online and half of them away, there are certain things that we can do that you can do daily that will help you increase your presence in front of the room. If we think, I think back to my college days, if we think about a meeting that was boring in person, it's 10 times boring online. It is absolutely is. So we have to ask ourselves, what am I saying that they could be saying? If we were in a normal Dale Carnegie session at this time, all of the things that we were doing so far, you would be doing. We would set you into different rooms, put you in small groups, have you plan out your ideas, thoughts, come back to report to the main room. Same things that we can do in a meeting in person. We tend to get in front of the room and just bore people to death with the monotonous type of our talk. No, you want to get people involved, engage them. What are they saying what are you saying that they could be saying? Second part is, what am I doing that they could be doing? So many times we're in a room, we stand in front of that flip chart or the whiteboard, or we have the little clicker to move slides through. Give the people in your room, give the people in the meeting the opportunity to do that. Same thing works in the virtual world. Get people involved. As we said at the beginning, people will support a world they helped create. Get them part of that creation. So comparing the two, face-to-face and online, there are certain skills that are needed. Let's go through those. In the Carnegie world, we love acronyms. So TOP with 2 P's is our acronym here. The first part of it is technical agility. I've seen some incredible instructors be in front of a room, and when they go to write something on the flip chart, their magic marker doesn't work. There is no different what we're doing here to what you would be doing in a room. It takes preparation. So know far more about the subject than you can use. Really get it. Are your PowerPoint slides right? Have you gone through them? Are they working? Does your computer work? One of the things I see often in meetings, and it's happened to me, is that my computer wants to do an update right when I start a meeting. And for some people's computers, it can take 30 minutes for that to update. All of a sudden, you're done. So make sure those things are finished. To let you know a couple of the things I did prior to this, I made sure that my mouse was fully charged, my keyboard was fully charged. I reset my Wi-Fi about an hour before the meeting, just so I made sure that it was updated to the best of its ability. Try to eliminate some of the technology channels. So the next part is that on-air presence. I like to use that term on-air presence. I spent 30 years in the radio business. It's really our communication. And we don't want to use sentences or words or types of things that we wouldn't use in a conversation at home. Keep it simple. And there's certain ways we can do that in our communication. You want to speak fluently, clearly and understandable. It's very simple. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Be who you are and people will accept that. Change the tone and pitch of your voice to captivate. I mean, there are some people that tend to just start talking and then it's the same monotone voice constantly. We'll take a look at that in a little while. But you want to change your pitch. You want to change your voice to captivate people. Manage the audio distractions. I have a four-legged golden doodle secretary that sits in this office with me all day long. She had to sit in another office during this meeting because she likes to be quite loud when people come and visit. So I didn't want that background noise coming into our meeting. So you want to manage those audio distractions. And of course, use pauses and the change of pace when you're speaking. I've always seen that in music and public speaking, that pause seems to have a great effect. Let your words marinate. Let them soak into people. Give them the time to understand what is being said. Now, if you have a question anytime during this, just put it in the chat box and Atticus will interrupt me and go ahead and ask that question. We will have question and answer period at the end of it also. So if you want to save it till then, fine. If you want to ask that question as we go, please do. Please do. You want to speak with authority and a welcoming voice. Be happy that people are there. Bring some enthusiasm to the meeting, to the session. Be a part of that. Make sure that your camera is working, that you have professional attire on, you have the proper lighting. Behind me is a whiteboard. I had a little glare, so I put a neutral sheet over the top of it so that that glare wouldn't have a negative effect. That last one too is when we're online, look into the camera. We tend to want to look at people's faces when we have everybody on the meeting. And yet the only way for them to see your eyes if you are looking at the camera. So you want to look at the camera when you're talking to the individuals. If you're talking to the group, that's fine to talk to everybody. But make sure that you look into that camera lens also. Vitally important, vitally important. So as we see here, when I look at this, if we ask that question, who has the next question? Each one of these individuals, these 1 through 6, they have a different way of asking that question. Number 2, I think, is screaming at me. That's like typing in all capitals in a text message, right? It's like, what are you doing? Why are you talking to me like that? Number 1 and number 6, I kind of struggle with those two. They're kind of indifferent or just, they're not really into the meeting. Number 5 is like, wow, this is awesome. And this is excited. Something shocked them. Number 4, you don't want to be. You don't want to be that negative Nancy, the powder that sits in the room. And as far as number 3, that's more of what you want to see, because there are certain things we see and we cannot see. In the way you talk, you are verbalizing your in a virtual world. This may be one of those pictures that they're seeing. And which one do you want them to see of you? That's the question. What is the message that you're trying to get across at that time? So it's very important that you understand that the way you deliver your content is extremely important to the engagement of your audience and your team. So it's vitally important. One of the things that we've been challenged with in our company is that we used to do our meetings every Monday, either on Facebook Live or in a Zoom content. And we've gotten away from that, and we now do them on the telephone. One of my cohorts who is on this meeting today, he and I talked last night that we're going to go back to that because there's certain things. We have part of our team that is all sitting in a room, 3 individuals, and then 2 of us that are virtual. And sometimes there's inside conversation going on. Like Monday, they were talking about golf and they started the meeting like 3 minutes late. And we're like, are we having a meeting? Are we not having a meeting? What's going on? So it's important that you stick to your time And it's important that you keep everybody engaged and involved, because good teaching or good meetings is more than just giving the right questions. It's more of that. It's more a giving of the right questions, I should say, than a giving of the right answers. Because it's the way you stimulate the mind that's going to stimulate the team. So think about that. Think about that and how you conduct your meetings and what you can do to be a little bit more active in bringing those things together. So I put this slide in for the purpose of letting you know how we work things when we're putting together a meeting or a class or whatever within the Dale Carnegie world. And you can use this same performance pathway in your delivery and your framework to what you do in your meetings. So your input going into the meeting is there are business and learner needs. You're having this meeting for a purpose. You're bringing your team together in order for them to gain some knowledge that you're putting together for them to have that output at the far end. What we're doing here today is we're sitting in the awareness section. If we were having a Dale Carnegie class or a training period, we would get you involved in experiences that would help that. Today, it's just an awareness. So prior to you even stepping into that, you have to determine what your outcome is intended to be, so that the input going in, you have your business and your learner needs. What do you want your team to take out of that meeting? Then when you grab into the meeting, you want to share some experiences. Give them the opportunity to partake in the meeting and not just a lecture, kind of like what this is, which I apologize for that because I love the environment where we're interacting constantly. For the sake of time today, we're going to bypass the experiences. In your meetings, give people the opportunity to break into pairs or groups of 3 and then come back and report to the team. You can do that in a way that will get them, get them on their feet, get them moving, let them be part of the flip chart presentation, the whiteboard presentation, or if it's virtually, get them involved in the meeting. And then as you pass through that experience, you come to the sustainment side. That is, what are they going to take as they go outside of the room, and what is the follow-up going to be? How are you going to track the accountability? Because what you want at the end is business and learner results. So you come in with the needs and you leave with the results. Yes, just in a 30-minute meeting. We need to go through these processes, have an agenda that you want to accomplish in each one of your meetings. I hope that makes sense. I would love to be able to see your faces to see if that makes sense. I'm going to trust that it does. And we'll move forward. So in the process, there's certain things that we want to do. Number one, what is the objective? Identify the goal and the objectives of what you want to accomplish. What needs do you want to take from that meeting? If you have a meeting every Monday or every Tuesday, I used to have a meeting every Tuesday many years ago in the radio business, and it was a department head meeting, and it was my fault that I made that meeting the most boring meeting because I did the same thing every week. Brought food, started at 10 o'clock and moved on. It just was, it was just all Bob and not inclusive of the rest of the group. So start with your objective. What do you want the end result to be? That's where we start. Another key to that too, and I should have mentioned this earlier. If you have a meeting every week at a certain time, and that's the time that you're, maybe that your lawn care service is doing, the mowing of the lawn, and all of a sudden there's noise outside your office, and you may want to ask them to come a different day if you're going to have a consistent meeting, or move your meeting to another time. I've found that to be something that can be very, very troublesome at times. Second part is, what is the social part of this. How are you going to have people interact? Which objectives are best completed with other people? What projects can your team do on their own? And what can they do with each other? What are some of the things that they can work together on? In working in the past with Northrop Grumman, the aerospace company out of St. Augustine, I always noticed that they used to pair their people up all the time. They would have almost like a mentoring process where an engineer would be working with somebody in design or development or in manufacturing, where they would work together and interact. It built such incredible teamwork. You can do the same thing in your meetings. Pair people up. Don't pair up like 2 salespeople and 2 of this. Get them in different departments. Cross-pollinate that. Let each other understand what each other is doing. You will find out at that time what the challenges are in each other's departments too. You're going to have to manage the time. You can do that. It's both done virtually and in person. All of these things can be done in either environment. And it's important that we understand that. So what are those social parts of that? And then what are the tools and features? You want to map the interactions of the features. Which part of your communication do you want to bring together? As I said earlier, you may have some people that are virtual. You may have some people in the room. How do you connect those two? Map that out prior to the meeting. Understand what you want. You're working to engage your audience, to bring that employee engagement right to the forefront. That's what we're working on in that aspect. So it's very important. Just reviewing those 3 things. Identify the goal and the objectives of the meeting. Determine how you're going to pair people up or what type of social interaction you're going to have. And then understand that as you move forward, that you can map out those interactions to the features of what you're trying to accomplish. So it's vitally important that we do that. So in the Carnegie world, and in all of our lives, we know that an emotional change plus a behavioral change is going to have a performance shift, a performance change, what you're going to get out of it. And in our meetings, when we're able to capture people's attention, their minds, and create that element that they are involved, that's part of the who they are. And then we get them to do things in the meeting that it might be pushing them out of their comfort zone a little bit. That's okay. I mean, that's allowable. Once we can get them out of their comfort zone and get a behavioral change, then you're going to get the process that you want as far as a performance change. Man, I think about it. If each and every one of our meetings just did this slide that you're looking at, whereas the people coming into the room, we were able to help them forget their fears of what COVID is and what is going on in our world right now, and help them have a buy-in to what's happening within the company at that moment. Then we get them doing things that they never dreamed they could do. Get them doing things that might not happen immediately. Just think of the performance change that you're going to have within your company and organization. Just stare at that for a second. That emotional change plus that behavioral change is going to give you, it's going to give you that shift that you want, and that you need, and that we have to have in today's world. We're all being challenged by this, each and every one of us. This slide right here can help you get to that next level that you need to get to. Big saying at times is practice makes perfect, right? In our world, practice makes permanent. So it's finding out some of the things that we do that we can practice over and over and over again to make a permanent positive habit. If you're an athlete, if you're a musician, whatever that is, you want to practice it over and over and over again so that when you're in competition, when you're in concert, when you're in the business world in front of an audience, you don't have to think about what you're doing. You've practiced so much that it is a permanent habit that you just go to. Now, the challenge with that is that if we practice negative things, we will fall in, they become permanent too. It's not just the positive ones that become permanent. So you want to make sure, we want to assure ourselves that we practice those permanent things that are positive habits. In the chat room, in the little chat box, write what upcoming opportunity do you have to apply something you learned today? What is something that you have coming up that you can take one of the things that we talked about over the last 25 minutes that you can utilize in your world? Atticus, if you get any of those, please share them with us.
I will. Jordan Miles says virtual workshops for high school students. Dave W says practice presenting my reports. Jimmy Caseo says meeting preparation.
Good. So most of it has been preparation, how we prepare to get into that. Anybody have some thoughts on how they can include others in a meeting that you're conducting? Go ahead and write that in the chat if you can. We all love to hear Atticus's voice too, so please share some ideas so that we can hear him some more.
While we wait for those, I will say that it's something that I struggle with my my Zoom encounters, and I've been trying to find an excuse to use the polling more option because polling option more often because I think it's a good option. So Kathy Hellriegel says prepare in advance with topics to discuss so that the team members are prepared to share. Jimmy Caseo says assign parts of the meeting to others. I really like that. Heather says I include surveys like you did and also chat questions.
Good. When we include the other individuals into that meeting and they are a part of that, they'll feel better about themselves and feel better about the team.
Dave W actually has a good question. He says, it's kind of hard to break into 2s and 3s in Zoom gatherings. Are there any suggestions? Oh, if you mean a technical issue, it's possible if you have breakout rooms. Otherwise, if you don't have breakout rooms, it's not really possible. It's a feature that you can get from Zoom.
Yes. And I'm sure you have them on your Zoom contract.
Yes.
I know I have the breakout rooms on my Zoom contract. A lot of our programs are done through WebEx, and it's very simple. The virtual world, when you master the technology, and you don't even have to master it, just learn it somewhat, it almost can be more effective than being in person. It can be more effective than being in person. You can share the whiteboard quickly. Somebody doesn't have to get up from their table and walk over to the whiteboard, exchanges, somebody else sit down. It's seamless. You pass the ball to that individual. You can have everybody share the whiteboard. You can break out into rooms, put a timer in the room. They know how long they have. So there are a variety of ways that we can do that technically in this world. But thank you very much for that question, and thank you for the input. We want to make sure that we practice many of these things in that. So one of the first questions I get asked when I'm doing these type of meetings is, are you nervous when you do these meetings? I will share with you, if I'm not nervous in any meeting that I'm doing, it's not good. I want to be nervous. It's like when I played sports in my younger years, the games that I was most nervous preparing for were the ones that I played the best in. If I walk into a meeting and it's old hat, then I'm not challenging myself. That's one of the first questions that I usually get. Are you nervous? I'm really nervous in these. Are you nervous? All the time nervous. I love that. That's the feeling of letting me know that I'm alive and I'm there. Who has the next question?
So we have a few. Should a meeting not be any longer than 30 minutes is the first one. And I'm thinking of this as distinct from presentations, meetings specifically.
So my thought on that is that it depends on the content. If you can engage your team for 45 minutes or an hour, go ahead and do that. If you can get your content done in 30 minutes, I would rather go longer and accomplish the goals as long as we're being engaging, rather than saying it can't be more than 30 minutes. And if somebody's talking at 29:59, we're out the door. If anybody's ever spoken or gone to a Rotary meeting, it's one of the biggest challenges. Rotarian for many, many, many years. So I'm not talking out of school. There's times that the speaker might be still talking, and at some Rotary clubs, they'll just get up and walk out. It depends on what your audience is, and it depends on what the reasoning for your meeting is. Another question, Atticus?
Despite all your preparation, if technology fails, how do you proceed? Do you reschedule?
I would reschedule or try to get back up as fast as possible if that's what I needed to do. Rescheduling is fine. It depends on the content of what is going on. If you blocked out 2 hours and it was something that you could technically take care of, we were in a training session where I was doing some online certification to become an instructor online, and we had a terrible storm. My power went out. I just had to drop out until the power came back and my computers came back up. I was able to slip back in. I thought to myself, what would be happening if I was controlling that meeting? All of a sudden, Bob disappeared. Valid point. You have to play each incident as it takes place.
I'm going to jump to this question because I like it so much. How do you prepare and keep yourself engaged when just talking to the camera?
Wow. So we are trained over and over and over again to share this information. We understand what the content is, and I'm very comfortable with it. I guess I'm a bit of a ham too. I love what I do. I want to be passionate about it. It does take a challenge, though. You really, really have to prepare. I prepared quite a bit of understanding what was going on in this meeting, so it's one of those challenging things. It's fun, though. A lot of fun. As we move through, I'll just go back to the original slide and remember that people support a world they help create. The more we can engage our audience, our team, our members in the meeting, in the seminar, webinar, workshop, whatever you're doing, the more you can engage people, the more they're going to help you create the dream that you have for what you're in the process of doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Turn it back over to you, Steve. Thank you.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. Your topic couldn't be more timely, and you reminded me to be a little bit more expressive, I guess. When I'm talking on video, I tend to just kind of talk, so this is a good timing for me as well. And you had raised a question that, you want to make sure that you accomplish the goals and objectives that you have set forth before the event. And I think for this seminar, you hit those on all points. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that very much.
Hey, Frank, thanks a lot, man. Cars and Rig Ingram, you guys have been sponsoring this event for a couple of years now. We really appreciate your partnership. Thank you again for sponsoring this. And if you guys have any questions or anything that we can do here at the Chamber to help you guys personally or with your business, either questions on this seminar or maybe suggestions for future seminars, please give us an email. I'm Steve C. at GainesvilleChamber.com. We are here to support you guys in our community. Just let us know what we can do to help you guys out. On that note, Atticus, thank you for being a great driver of this event today and all the controls. We appreciate you. And again, thank you everybody for joining us today. Be safe.